DesiCorp is a great example of where they really started with just an idea and came to us, and we were able to fund the proof of concept research and teach them the basics. And then they decided to form their own company and worked with XLerateHealth and with the iCorp program, both the local iCorp program and the national iCorp program, to form this company that we're very, very excited about.
First started out as purely an academic endeavor. We thought there might be commercial applications, which is, an important part of academic research. You want to have a social impact. Otherwise, you really want to search for a project that does have that social impact. Researchers
in universities make a lot of discoveries. They come up with ideas for how to treat diseases, for example, and they realize that it has potential to benefit patients. But a lot of times they're not very clear on how to proceed in terms of turning their idea or their discovery into an actual product that could help patients. In our Excite program, which is an NIH-funded part of the REACH program, we are able to teach researchers how to take those first steps. So teach them, for example, how to assess whether they have a product that will be valuable, that people want and that can do some good, and that there's a realistic way forward to the market.
I was very focused on the science and on maybe the clinical application, but not necessarily the market. Through the Excite program, that really opened my eyes to all those aspects, not just getting a technology to the clinic, but who's going to pay for it, who's going to buy it, who's going to make the decision about that process. And it's not just the clinician, they're one part of it, but we realize there are a lot more people involved here, and we need to be aware of that and understand that entire process so we can identify a path that this product might get to market. And that's a whole different perspective than what we typically would have in our research.
The DesiCorp team first of all went through a program called iCorp, which allowed them to do some training called Launch It, which teaches researchers about how to set up a business and a kind of crash course in what they need to know.
So the Launch It program was initially started to fill a void in the community where there was no program to help startup owners or university researchers figure out whether they had a viable commercial product or not. What we really wanted them to do is to have an understanding of, is there commercial potential for this project? And if I'm interested in commercializing this technology, what do I need to think about it? How should I direct my research so that at the end of this process, I do in fact have a product that has commercial potential?
You get a really new perspective on how your research integrates into a bigger framework. And you also learn to actually consider commercialization potential that you might before not really have thought about. And even if you thought about it, you would have not known where to even start to ask questions.
We have worked with the Associate Vice President for Research and Innovation at the university from the beginning, and they have helped to subsidize the attendance of the university researchers, its full-time faculty, staff, and students. Part of that covers the cost of going through Launch It, and the rest of it can be used for additional customer discovery and prototype development.
During that time, we decided to go ahead and start our own startup company based on the technology that we were developing. And from there, we ended up applying for the national NSF iCorp program in order to really expand the customer discovery.
And we reached out and said we wanted to do these long travels. We wanted to go to Alaska and actually talk to them and see how they manage blood. And we wanted to talk to people in Puerto Rico after a hurricane and learn about what the impact on the blood supply was there. And this national iCorp program, we ended up winning that grant. So we got a large amount of travel funds to be able to actually meet these people in person.
And so we did that. We ended up traveling over 70,000 miles around the country and performed over 100 customer discovery interviews in less than 6 weeks.
And I think that was another level in terms of understanding the problem and understanding what a future product would look like.
So we can take the research and the researchers so far along the pathway of product development, but the next stage is fulfilled by their interaction with XLerateHealth, and it's been extremely valuable to us to have this almost seamless transition from our program into this accelerator program.
So the XLerateHealth Bootcamp was incredibly helpful to us. When we started going into it, we had an idea of how businesses operate, but we were still thinking of this like academics. You can't really rely on the academic sphere too much. It's wonderful for developing innovative technologies, but once you sort of have an idea, the private sector seems to be much better at rapidly converting that into a product that somebody can use and effectively help a patient. For startup companies, they're usually strapped for cash, and early on there's a lot of risk, especially when you think about biomedical technologies such as ours. We realized that it's pretty easy to establish a company and that there are certain benefits to that, not the least of which being sources of funding that aren't tied to fundamental scientific research, but to product development. A lot of what we currently are incorporating to SBR proposals or when we go to talk to potential customers is figures that we made for the demo day pitch or figures that we made and presented in the cohort classes. At the moment we have pending small business innovative research grants, for example, which we would never have written without the commercialization knowledge, and we would have been totally uncompetitive for. Before we were sort of going at a really fast pace in the Excite program for what we thought, and now we're just sprinting even compared to the Excite program, because we have a very clear idea of where we're going, and the urgency really hit us.
I did not expect when I came here that I would be looking at how to commercialize things from the research that we're doing.
I think at this point, it's just a matter of keeping up the pace we're going and waiting for outcomes where we shift more of the research towards a privatized model where we can hire somebody who does this full-time and doesn't have a dissertation to write like I do. And we're definitely very excited about that prospect right now.